So it's the end of the month and you're here for one reason and one reason alone, and that's to see what acquisitions I've made towards the Omega collection. Now yes, I did promise it was going to be more killer, less filler as I move forward, but did I do it? Who knows? You'll just have to wait until after these. So hello and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and yes, it's time for some pickups, and as per always I will be starting with the newer games and then working my way back slowly to that juicy retro at the end. Now before I start with the pickups, I want to put out this quick message to Mary from A Co-opal of Nerds, or more importantly to Fresh at Co-opal of Nerds. Every household, no matter which household you're in, no matter which country, needs one item. One item is vital, and that is a katana. If you do not have a katana in your home, you cannot protect yourself from the oncoming zombie apocalypse that we all know is coming. So Fresh, you get out there, you get yourself a katana, or more importantly, you get Mary a katana so she can defend your games collection. Now, enough of that nonsense, and let's get on with the game pickups. And as I said, starting with the newer games first and working my way back, and I did pick up a PlayStation 5 game this month, that game being Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Now this was one of the games that I had on my front log. Now if you're not quite sure what a front log is, it's like a backlog, but instead of games that you've got that you haven't played, it's games that are still to come out that you want to play. So I've managed to check this one off. I played it for a few hours, and yes, it's exactly what I expected to be, and I'm quite glad this one came into the front log, or came into the collection anyway, and came off the front log. So Tiny Tina's Wonderland going into the collection, and I can heartily recommend this one for anyone who loves a good looter shooter, caster slasher, or whatever they describe it as. It's just a fantastic fun little first person shooter game. So next up, coming into the collection, is a Switch game. Yes, I've picked up another Switch game because this is one of the reasons that I pick up Switch games, and you'll see that as I show what it is, and it's this here, and that's the Flashback 25th Anniversary Edition. Now this particular edition has a wonderful little steelbook in it. It's got the regular case in there as well as some other goodies as well, but Flashback was an important game back in the day, and if you don't know what it is, you know what, Google some gameplay, maybe even go out there, buy the game and try it yourself, because this truly was a leap forward in technology at the time. So Flashback 25th Anniversary Edition for the Switch coming into the collection. So next up, we're moving down a generation and we're moving on to the PlayStation 4. So yes, Jen over at Retro Rivals is going to be happy with this slight display here, and so far I think you'll agree that it's been mostly killer and not just filler. It's games that I wanted to play and games I wanted into the collection. Now there may be some deviation into games that I didn't want in the collection, that I didn't know I wanted in the collection anyway, and we might start getting down this path here, but let's just have a look at the games that I picked up for the PlayStation 4, and we're going to be starting with Mad Max. Now this is a game that I did want into the collection. I played it when it first came out and thoroughly enjoyed it. It's kinda like the Batman games, the Batman Arkham games that we saw back about this time as well, with that wonderful sort of almost open world gameplay, and the combat mechanics are very similar too. Only difference of course is you're a little bit more focused on the car with this game, and of course other weapons like guns and the like. But yes, Mad Max, it's a great license, and this is actually a good game. I heartily recommend it, and Mad Max is in the collection again. So next up for the PlayStation 4, I picked up Borderlands 3, and in this wonderful steelbook case, which is something else I've got another growing bug for. I'm starting to really appreciate the steelbooks, and where I see them I tend to pick them up. Now I didn't pick this up solely because it was a steelbook, it was mostly due to the fact that I enjoyed what I'd played of Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I didn't really get on with the gunplay in the early Borderland games, haven't played 3 yet, but maybe, just maybe I'll enjoy it a bit more now that I've enjoyed dipping into Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So that's Borderlands 3, nice steelbook edition into the collection. So what could follow Borderlands 3 but Borderlands the Handsome Collection, which is Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel all on one juicy disc. Now, I didn't get on with this game when I first played it, and it was mostly due to the gunplay. The guns weren't quite accurate enough for my liking, but that's part of the quirk of this particular series of games. After enjoying Tiny Tina's Wonderland, I thought, like I said with Borderlands 3, I'll dip back into the series, so I'm quite happy to have this in here, and that's starting to bulk up the Borderlands collection back here. Borderlands, the Handsome Collection, into the collection. Now, next up for the PlayStation 4 is a game that I actually wanted into the collection. One I've been sitting on for a while, just haven't picked it up yet. Well, I have now, obviously, and that is The Secret of Mana, a game that's much more in my wheelhouse because it's a JRPG. Now, it is an action JRPG, which is not quite top tier for me. Everyone who knows me knows that I like my turn-based and then tactical and then action, but you know what, it's a great little game and it needed to be in the collection, so that's The Secret of Mana coming into the collection. Now, the next game that's coming into the collection is mainly due to another channel out there, and that channel is Back in the Day Gaming, our good friend Jonathan, who pumps out every Friday a first person Friday, and he does despite the fact that first person shooters, especially back in the day, gave me dreadful motion sickness. Well, the way he's pumping out this content is just getting the juices flowing to get some of these back into the collection, and this is Call of Duty World War II, and this is my favourite type of these Call of Duty games where we don't have all that wall running and jetpacks and all that kind of shenanigans. I like the good old fashioned vanilla weapons. Give me rifles that don't always work, and give me the knife and the pistol, that's fine. So I'm looking forward to diving into World War II, and it wasn't that expensive. That's another beautiful part of the PlayStation 4 at the moment. The games aren't that expensive. Get out there and buy them, give them a try, and if you don't like them you can move them on, but I'm quite happy to have Call of Duty World War II into the collection. So next up is a game that I didn't want into the collection, a game I had no interest in having in the collection. It is pure filler, but had to buy it because, you see, despite putting out your own videos week after week, every now and again a mate on YouTube will ask you to make a video for them, or at least a small cameo video for them, and that is the reason for the purchase of this, and that is Madden 25. Now, if you're in the know, you'll know why I've bought this particular game, and if you're not in the know, then you just keep your eyes peeled for where this game is going to make an appearance on another channel. I'm not going to spoil it at the moment, but if you're in the know, you'll know. But unfortunately, due to a certain friend, and I'll put friend in air quotes there, we have Madden 25 in the collection. So next up for the PlayStation 4, we have a gift that was sent from Dale over at Daily Retro. Links in the description, you can check out his channel later, and it's well worth your time doing so. And that gift is Kingdoms of Amalur: The Re-Reckoning. Now, this is a game I didn't have in the collection. It's a game that I haven't even played yet, and he does know I like a good RPG. Now, normally anyone that sends me an RPG that I haven't played, I'm more than happy to dive into, but for some reason Dale seems to think that Skyrim isn't all that. Now, we'll cast that aside because this is a wonderful gift and of course a game that I do want to play. As you can see at the moment, it is sealed. It will get unsealed because my philosophy is quite simple. If a sealed game dies, it doesn't get to go to video game heaven, and I'm not having that, not with any of my games. So Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning is in the collection, and all thanks to Dale at Daily Retro. And next up, following that wonderful gift from Dale, we have another gift. Now, if you watched a previous video, which was the Sony Pony Care Package box, I mean, I'll put the link to that in the description as well. Gib84, the wonderful Gordon over there, sent me over some items in a wonderful box because we Sony ponies do have to look after each other, and one of the games that he sent over in that box was Final Fantasy Type O HD. Now, this is a Final Fantasy game that I didn't have in the collection, and of course, Gib, like most of you out there know, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan and I want them all into the collection. Unfortunately, I'm getting to the stage in the collection where it's probably going to start to get a bit pricey, but that's one of the reasons I'm trying not to do a lot of filler when I'm picking up games and trying to focus on, you know, looking for that killer, those items that I really want in there. But getting Final Fantasy Type 0 into the collection, well, I'm over the moon, so thank you again, Gordon. Your link's in the description for your channel, and yes, if you haven't popped a visit to Gibby84, go and do that after this video. So after the PlayStation 4, we're going to be stepping down a generation and looking at the PlayStation 3 pickups. And the first PlayStation 3 I've got to show, I got for 50p or just slightly under 50p. Now, the reason I got it for this price, that's a completely different story, and there's several other games in this particular video that you're going to see that I got for under 50p. I will go into that in detail when I get to the end of those, but at the moment, XCOM, a wonderful tactical shooter, and it's in the collection now, and I'm quite happy about that, especially at the price. So next up after XCOM is another one of those just under 50p games that I managed to pick up, and that is Beyond Two Souls. Now yes, I've wanted this into the collection because I do like the Quantic Dream games. It's a series of games that I've quite enjoyed playing. This one I haven't put much of any time into it. I'm sure I played a little bit of it when it first came out, but now I've got it in the collection, I've got no excuse to sit down and properly go through it. Now I do believe it's not the best of the series of games that they put out, but it's one of their games. I've got to give it a go and give it a fair shake myself. So that's Beyond Two Souls going into the collection. Next up for the PlayStation 3 is a game that was strongly recommended. Now I say strongly recommended, but when you get to my age your memory tends to fade and go in and out a bit, but I am almost positive, 99.9% sure, that Scott over at Retro Rivals said that this game here was a must have, and that is Dante's Inferno. Haven't played it myself, looks like the kind of thing that I would have played back in the day in the PlayStation 3 days. I've got it in the collection now, I've got no excuse, and Scott, if this was you, let me know exactly why you put out there that I had to pick this up, or the whole world had to pick this up, and that's Dante's Inferno on the PlayStation 3. So next up and last up for the PlayStation 3 is one of the games that came out of the Better Half box. If you haven't seen that video, well, feel free to do that after this. But that particular Better Half box was a bit special because it wasn't just the Better Half that put it together. She had help from Roger Retro Gamer. Now I will put his link in the description so you can pop along to his channel and tell him just how much of a big troll he is, as you'll see if you haven't seen the Better Half box, because one of the games that Roger put in there was this Singstarabba. Now yes, the SingStar games are good fun, they're great party games, but ABBA, really? Roger, what were you thinking? Yes, I know what you were thinking, you just wanted to make a fool of me, but you know what? SingStarabba's in the collection now, it's one of the rules of the Better Half box, and it's going to be in there for life, so thanks again for that, Roger Retro. Now next up, yes, we're away from the PlayStation 3, but we're staying on the same generation, and the game that's coming up is another game from the Better Half box, and this one definitely came from the Better Half. I have no doubt again whatsoever that this was the Better Half decision when it came to that box, and it is Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. Now yes, there's a running joke behind these Legends of the Guardian games, and I'm not going to go into it here, but it's from the Better Half box. I can't even trade it if I decide it's filler. So this game, along with all the other Legends of the Guardian games, are now in the collection. So, oh joy, yeah. So moving away from the Xbox 360, we're moving on to another system, and it's another gift. It's one of the other games. It was the other game that came in the Sony Pony Care package from Gordon over at Gib84, and that of course was Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. And yes, it's another Final Fantasy game I didn't have in the collection. It's one that I would have hunted down myself anyway, so super happy to get this into the collection, and I can't thank Gordon enough for that wonderful care package. Now I do have the box for the care package. I will be looking for another Sony Pony out there that looks like they're in need of a care package, so you know, if you want to drop that in the comments that you're a Sony Pony, you quite fancy a Sony Pony care package, I'll get back to that and see who's worthy of a Sony Pony care package. And if you don't get back to me in the comments, I'll just have to pick one of you Sony Ponies myself. But enough of that, that's Final Fantasy Tactics Advance into the collection. So, properly dropping down a generation, we're moving on to my home turf, the PlayStation 2. And yes, some of these games weren't games that I picked up for myself, they came as a form of a gift. And we'll start with that and get this one out the way straight away, because it's another one that came out of the Better Half box. Another Roger Retro Gamer pick, and that is SingStar Bollywood. Yes, now this is a troll of all trolls, because my better half, if you don't know, is half Indian, and she will make me play this just for shits and giggles. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So Roger, of all the trolling that happened in that particular box, this one is probably going to be the most painful. Yes, the Owl games, the whole collection's there now, so thanks very much for that, but having to sing SingStar Bollywood and having to have this in the collection forever, well done, Mr. Roger Retro Gamer, well played. So next up is a game from a series of games that I don't have in the collection that I should have in the collection. One that passed me by back in the day, and I'm only starting to collect for it now, and that's mainly due to Dave over at Lame Dad Retro Gamer, link in the description again for Dave, who reminded me that you need to have the Onimusha games in the collection. So that's Onimusha Warlords into the collection now, besides Onimusha 2, which is already up there, and I will be on the lookout for 3 at some point as well. So happy to get this in the collection, but remember, it's you folks out there who put out videos, pick up videos like this, or just one-off videos about video games that you loved, that remind us there's games that we're missing from our collection that shouldn't be missing. So thanks again, Dave, and Onimusha Warlords is happily in the collection now. Next up, probably my favourite type of game. It's a licensed game, it's probably not a good game either, and you can hear the excitement building in the voice, because it's a license also that I absolutely adore. It's not just a bad license game that I've had to pick up because it's a bad license game. It's a not very good license game that was made by Bethesda, and it's from a license that I absolutely love, and that's Star Trek. So I've picked up Star Trek Encounters. I do have another Star Trek game up there, I can't remember off my top of my head what it is, and there's 2 more to go for the PlayStation 2. So my eyes will be peeled for the other 2 Star Trek games out there. But a bad license game, a license that I absolutely adore, and on the PlayStation 2, these are holy grail games for me. I don't care what anybody says. You can call expensive games or super rare games holy grail games. For me, it's bad license games from licenses that I absolutely adore on the PlayStation 2. So super happy to get Star Trek Encounters into the collection. And next up for the PlayStation 2, we're staying in the same vein. It's the things that I love, and that's what we collect, and that's going to be a bad license game. It's going to be a license that I absolutely adore, and it's going to be on the PlayStation 2, and we have Knight Rider. Now, anyone who doesn't know what Knight Rider is, you need to take a trip back to the 1980s and see the Hoff at his absolute best, playing Michael Knight in Knight Rider. Great TV show, I grew up watching it, loved it to pieces. The game's not that great, but they've released one for the PlayStation 2. Makes me a happy bunny to have Knight Rider for the PlayStation 2 in the collection. And following that, it's just pure luck that whoever traded that Knight Rider into my local game store also traded in Knight Rider 2, the game for the PlayStation 2, and I believe this one is even worse than the first game. So I've not only got Knight Rider, I have Knight Rider 2, and I'm so looking forward to sitting down and playing these pair of bad games from a license that I absolutely love. Knight Rider 2, the game for the PlayStation 2 in the collection. Now, next up isn't a licensed game as such, but it is from a subset of games that I love to have in the collection, and that's modern remakes of old arcade games. And one of the arcade games that I absolutely loved growing up in the 80s was Spy Hunter, and we have Spy Hunter here on the PlayStation 2. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's also a Spy Hunter 2 and a Spy Hunter 3. It's not quite named Spy Hunter 3, I believe it's called Nowhere to Run, and it stars The Rock. So I'm looking forward to keeping my eyes peeled for those 2 games and have the 3 Spy Hunter games in the collection, because Spy Hunter, as I said, was a game that I loved back in the day, back in the 80s on the arcades. Played it on the ZX Spectrum, they ported it to absolutely everything back then, but I haven't played this yet, so looking forward to seeing what the PlayStation 2 era of gaming has done to my beloved Spy Hunter. Now, last up for the PlayStation 2 is a game that I probably walked past a million times. If there's one genre of gaming that I'm not overly interested in, it's arcade racers. And when you see the box art for this game, you'll understand then probably why I walk past it a lot, and that is Road Trip Adventure, because to me, looking at this box art, it's just another sort of cartoony arcade racer. It, however, is not. I stumbled upon a video that was playing this particular game, only for my shock and horror to discover that this in fact is an arcade racer RPG. So an AR RPG. Now, I'll try not to talk too much about this game. I might just do a sort of mini deep dive into it, because I don't think I've ever came across a game quite like this before. It's not great. Don't rush out there and buy it if you're not interested in obscure, funny, strange games like obviously I do myself, because this is basically the movie Cars, the Disney Pixar movie Cars, before that was released. You play as a little car and you go off in an adventure. You drive about in an open world game and you bump into other cars and they give you quests. And of course, as I said, I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm thinking about doing a dedicated video to this game itself, because it's just so unusual and, you know what, just a little bit ahead of its time, and that's Road Trip Adventure on the PlayStation 2. So moving away from the PlayStation 2, we're moving down a generation and onto the PlayStation, the mighty PlayStation itself, and I have picked up 2 games for that system this month. And the first one is a game that I, much like Road Trip Adventure, have walked past many times because of the box art. Now this game is Wildnine. Now, if you're over in North America or maybe another region, you won't recognise this box art, because over there you got much better box art that was much more enticing to buy this particular game. Whenever I saw this game back in the day, and right up until a few months ago, I would have walked past this all the time. Wouldn't have given it a second look, because this box art does nothing for the game. The game itself is so much more fun than this tries to give away. Now, I've got to thank Scott over at Sega Blocks, because it was his video that showcased this game, and it was like a lightning bolt, you know, seeing that gameplay and then recalling this stupid box art. I just had to go and get myself a copy of it. It did take a couple of months to hunt down a copy in the condition and at the price that I wanted it at, but I did finally get there. So thank you again, Sega Blocks. Your link's also in the description, for bringing to light a game that I would never have played, never have known about, and would have walked past every day of the week if I saw it out there. Wildnine, however, is now in the collection. So last up for the PlayStation 2 is another one of those games that I got for under 50p, and that game is Evil Dead: Hail to the King. Now, this is a game that's not brilliant, it's not the best game in the world, it's not the best Evil Dead game in the world. It is, however, an Evil Dead game, it's in great condition, it's on the PlayStation, and not only that, it's Bruce Campbell. And now if you're from Generation X like myself, Bruce Campbell is basically your king, and yes, hail to the king, baby, because you've got to have as much Bruce Campbell and as much Evil Dead in your life as you can get, and getting it for under 50p, well, that's just the icing on the cake. So Evil Dead, hail to the king, into the collection. So moving away from the PlayStation, we're moving down a generation again, and we're moving on to the Megadrive, because I've decided to double dip this month. Because when I saw that I could also get my hands on Flashback on the Megadrive, as well as having the Switch version, the 25th anniversary edition, I had to buy them both at the same time. It was like the universe was telling me this needs to be in the collection, and it does really. It's in a nice condition, happy to have it, and happy to have it sitting beside the Switch version as well. And I'm looking forward to playing them and just comparing how well the Switch remaster has done. So that's Flashback on the Megadrive into the collection. Now, moving away from the games, there were a couple of pieces of hardware that I picked up this month, because it's not just the games that we have to buy, we also have to buy consoles and accessories and other things like that. And the 3 pieces of hardware that I picked up this month, the first one is this here, the wonderful Zelda Game & Watch. These are fantastic little designs. Now, I didn't put any time into Zelda or any of the games that are on this, because when you check out the back, you can see there's more than just the one game that the one game that you got with the Mario one. This one gives you a selection of the games, and as I said, I didn't play the Zelda games back in the day, haven't put much of any time into them, and this is such an interesting and pretty way to play these games, so I was happy to get this one into the collection. And believe it or not, this was one of the under 50p pickups this month, so that's not too bad. And having that in the collection, I was going to have it anyway, but for that price, well, I wasn't going to knock it back. The second piece of hardware that I picked up this month is something that I picked up for the Switch, because I don't like the Joy-Cons, they're just a little bit too small for these big old man hands, so I picked up this, and that's the 8BitDo Pro 2 Bluetooth gamepad, and as you can see, it's a lovely Sony PlayStation grey. It has the button layout very much, and of course the analog sticks like the DualShock controller from the Sony PlayStation days, so this just absolutely screamed buy me, and well, I did. It wasn't too pricey, I got this for about £20, which is a snip for a controller, especially one that you can use not only just on the Switch, it also works on Android and Mac OS, Windows and Steam, and even Raspberry Pi. It's a Bluetooth controller. It looks very, very like a PlayStation controller from back in the day, but it will be used primarily for the Switch in this household. And the last piece of hardware was for the PlayStation 5. I was in the market for a new controller and decided to go for one of the revamped coloured ones. And not only are they revamped in colours, the internals in these are better than the first release controllers. There's a bit more girth to the springs inside there, so they don't have the tendency to break if you're a bit rough with your controllers. But also it came in this lovely blue colour, and Sony blue, well, you can't beat that, can you? So the DualSense 5 controller in this wonderful blue is now in the collection too. So the story behind the 50p games. I was out game hunting, I was going through the pre-owned stores, I was going into the new stores, I was going into the charity shops, the Goodwill or thrift shops as you may call them over in North America, and I stumbled upon a bin with Skylanders. Now Skylanders don't have a lot of value, not at the moment anyway, but there are a few out there, the Skylander Imaginators, especially the limited edition ones, that apparently do, and I stumbled across 6 that I bought for 50p a piece that turned into this here. So £3 in cash for the Skylanders turned into, well, this handful of gold for me. So it does go to show you, if you're out there hunting, you might find something. Maybe not something for yourself. If a Skylander fan had found those Skylanders, they would have kept the Skylanders, but something that you can turn into gold for yourself, and it was just one of those days. I wish they happened more often, but it's really nice when they do, and it helps encourage you go out and keep doing it time and time again. If you want to talk about any of the games that you've seen in my pickups, drop that down in the comments, because interaction between you and me, well, that's what I do YouTube for. This is social media for me, getting to know you, you getting to know me, getting to know my collection, me getting to know your collection, because video games is what bring us all together in this. Thank you very much for watching as always, and until next time, of course, cheerio!